Hey guys, Eli here. Look, 2025 was a terrible year for us Americans. If you don't agree, please teach me whatever kind of mental gymnastics you clearly excel in. And this is reflected in not only us as consumers of art. I've seen so many people this year talk about how 2025 was just underwhelming and, disappointing. I think that's because the creators of our art they're fucking feeling it too, man. Yeah, I think we're going to see even more bleak films next year, or this year, I should say, 2026. Films about fascism, films about xenophobia. But I also think that we will see more films about hope and overcoming impossible odds and coming together instead of deepening the divide. It was a shit year, and 2026 will probably be worse. Here's the 10 movies of 2025 I hated the most.
This movie had such a funny trailer that I was fully convinced that it was just going to be really good. I thought it was going to be, the best comedy of the year. It looked like, it looked like it would be one of those movies that combine class with brutal humor, and I'm all for that kind of stuff. But after seeing it, most of my compliments go to the trailer editor because, they were able to showcase the funniest scenes and in the best way. And not only that, but somehow make them look even funnier. I'm not saying it's unwatchable or anything like that. I really liked Olivia Colman and even Benedict Cumberbatch or Batch or whatever. I never know how to say that guy's name, but anyways, I would never, I would never watch this movie again. It's just painfully average and a huge letdown. Oh boy, what a slog! I appreciated the source material and the whole adding to Bram Stoker's Dracula lore, but with a setup like that, to say that this film undelivers is a huge understatement. The Woman in the Yard was a confusing one for me. Not so much the story, although I did have to think on that a bit after I saw it the first time. But in that, I didn't really know how to feel about it. I know I'm not the only one. It felt to me like an A24 movie with a Blumhouse filter tacked on. It feels just surface level arty. Wants to use super bleak and dark themes, but then for some reason fails to fully commit to them. What we're left with is a dull, somewhat upsetting PG-13 movie that wants to be smart and edgy. Okay, so I didn't exactly hate Opus. I said a few positive things in my review actually, but it's definitely not something I'd probably ever watch again. I liked the opening credits sequence. That was really clever and really funny. I liked the lead, but that was about it. It's always great to see John Malkovich and Juliette Lewis, but they did nothing for me here. A24 really let me down numerous times this year. Wolfman was one of the more confusing movies for me in 2025. Again, not with the plot, but with how, Leigh Whannell thought that anyone wanted this. Don't get me wrong, we were cool with getting a new Wolfman movie. What we didn't want, was one that tries to do a complete 180 away from everything we want in a werewolf movie, much less, one actually calling itself Wolfman. We got a few werewolf movies this year, and they all sucked. Another movie where my favorite aspects were the trailer and the short runtime. I thought the trailer looked really fun. I was rooting for Finn Wolfhard, and that his directorial debut would be awesome and a success, a fun, good old summer camp slasher. I just was underwhelmed on every single level here, and it's clear that Finn is just not really ready to be a good writer director. Not yet. Interesting story, decent practical gore, wild ending that was so stupid and fun, sloppy storytelling, and Pete Davidson. Bright, colorful, visually impressive, but the characters were uninteresting and the story just completely undelivers. I can do style over substance if the style is interesting enough, but here it's just all very surface level at best. Completely flat and hollow. Even going into this trilogy with zero expectations, it still managed to disappoint me. I'd go as far as to say embarrassingly bad. Chapter 2 is even worse than the first, and I'm all in for Chapter 3. I will say, though, that out of all darkness comes light, and, I felt the need to rewatch the original Strangers movie after quite a few years, and I do have a kind of like a newfound appreciation for it, which is pretty cool. From what I've heard, the House on Eden crew seem to be good people, so I take zero pleasure, in having this movie in my number one spot. This was not far from a modern, shot on video movie, which is fine, but it just doesn't do anything interesting at all. I can't imagine why you wouldn't just save your money until you have enough to do something cool, because a lot of people only get one chance. This movie, yeah, no good. So if you guys want, if you want to know more about any of these movies, I've actually reviewed all of them. So I'll make a playlist and leave a link or whatever. But I appreciate you watching, and all jokes aside, I don't get much enjoyment trashing a movie. I just don't. I think you know that by now. It's just not something I do often. I want every movie to be awesome. I want every movie to change someone's life and inspire them to do something. Also, if you do enjoy any of these, that's awesome. I'm glad. I would never intend to take away any of your enjoyment. We just have slightly different tastes. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.
Subscribe right now, please.